Hi, everybody. Welcome to GNM 2325, Nutrition and Health. I'm Guy Barbato. I'll be leading our conversation, both geographically and temporally asynchronous. As I noted in my earlier email, there will be several sets of these recorded videos for you to take a peek at as we go through the week. I thought it would be worthwhile to spend a little bit of time with just on introductions. The first assignment, of course, is for you to introduce yourself to me and to the class. Since we don't really get together in person, we can do it via Blackboard. Everything is being done on Blackboard. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Not my favorite online environment, but so it goes. I'm pretty easy to find. You can see this is my office in USC 121, so I'm on the first floor. I am here mostly Monday through Friday, even during the summer. I get here about 7:30 or so in the morning, and I usually leave about between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. My email address is down here at the bottom. You can kind of see it there if I give you a little block. It's gfb1@stockton.edu. You can use my full name if you like, but most people find it easiest just to remember GFB1. It is also my Twitter handle. One of the first assignments that you'll have to do over the next day or so is, if you do not have a Twitter account, to get yourself a Twitter account. We will be reading and extracting nutritional information from the social media environments, and we'll talk a little bit more about that over the next couple of days. So if you do not have a Twitter account, go ahead and sign up for one. It's pretty trivial. And don't worry, we're not going to do any political or shampoo sales or political advertisements or raising money, any of those kinds of things. But this is strictly taking a peek at science Twitter, and in particular nutrition Twitter. It's a very interesting environment. It will give you an idea not just of current trends in nutrition, but also the fads. You'll also learn a little bit about some of the pseudoscience and some of the bad ideas that are floating around, probably your fellow students, but certainly the rest of the population as well. Just to give you some idea of who I am, there we go. Just to give you a little bit of an idea about my background, I was born and raised in scenic Newark, New Jersey. I went to first couple of grades in elementary school there, and then my folks moved outside of Newark into Union. Both of my parents are teachers, so I guess I fell into this profession pretty honestly. I ended up graduating from Union High School. The Farmers, what a strange mascot name, but so be it. I then went ahead at the end of high school. I was very interested in science, and I went to Wilkes College, which is now Wilkes University in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and majored in biology. My BS is in biology. I started out as a pre-med student, and thankfully learned the error of my ways before I committed to something that I would not enjoy. Ended up going to Virginia Tech. My master's degree is in nutrition, and that's part of where I have my interest level. Really took off at that time, looking at the nutritional genetics of growth and development in domestic animals. I got my PhD in genetics, and in fact, my PhD work was entirely on nutritional genetics. Met my former wife, and had my son was born, and so I got a job at Holly Farms Incorporated in North Carolina, so you can kind of see that blue line going down further south. And Holly Farms was a predecessor of Tyson Foods, and so I was working on genetic improvement of chickens, decreasing fat, increasing breast meat yield, etc. While I was down there, I really did not enjoy living in the South. I missed the New York metropolitan area, and I also missed teaching. And I was lucky enough, with my degree in genetics, to get a postdoc at the Institute of Human Nutrition at Columbia University. Looked at different models of obesity, both genetic and nutritional models of obesity, and the influence of opioid neurotransmitters on those systems. I spent a couple of years at Columbia, and then I went to Rutgers. I had another postdoc. I was part-time between the Department of Chemistry and the Institute of Animal Behavior, and really began to hone my biochemistry skills while I was there. In the 1980s was when the Human Genome Project really started out. So I realized that I had to get a lot better at biochemistry, and so spent quite a bit of time in my postdocs learning more and getting a little bit better at it. All of a sudden, Penn State happened. I was very lucky. There we go, hi. I was very lucky in the sense that I was reading Science Magazine. Science Magazine is one of the premier weekly scientific journals, and I have been reading it since high school, believe it or not. As I said, I was very interested in science, and they hired me in the College of Agricultural Sciences to really be a nutritional geneticist, to look at nutritional effects on different genotypes, as well as inheritance of growth and development. Mostly in poultry. I probably worked about 75% of my time in poultry and 25% of my time in mammalian models, including humans, and how genes influenced metabolic and certainly physiological processes. While I was there, I had some really unique international opportunities. I spent 3 months at the University of Cairo in Egypt, a few months and a couple of visits to the Wageningen University in the Netherlands, which is the Dutch agricultural university. And then I spent a sabbatical in Nouzy, France, which is just outside of Tours, again doing genetics in different avian species. Along the way, I started consulting. It turned out that my skills were in both genetics but also in nutrition, were valued by industry, so I started a consulting company, and along the way discovered a couple of really interesting reproductive related mechanisms, which ended up being patents, and started a small biotech company, at which point in time I moved back to New Jersey in 2009, 2010. Took early retirement from Penn State and came back to the old homeland. Spent a bit of time. I did miss teaching, even though I was raising money and doing work for the company. So I started teaching part-time at Ocean County colleges. Coincidentally, met an old dorm mate of mine from college here at Stockton. We started going out to lunch together just to see another educated human being, and ended up also being part-time at Stockton for several years. And they finally, in 2021, made me a full-time faculty member in the biology program here at Stockton, so kind of fun. Along the way, I got to tell you, I really do spend a lot of time reading science, all different types of science. Absolutely, I guess I should reverse the order here. Love music, love to eat, love being by the water. I think getting near the salt water is one of the best things. Definitely have been a Yankees fan since the early 60s when I went to my first Yankee game. Sports cars, and given my love of music, I am a very, very bad guitarist. But I truly love to play, and I think that's the lesson, is sometimes you have to allow yourself to be bad at something just because you love it. So, but meanwhile, let's get back. Enough about that. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition. I will summarize parts of the syllabus here shortly, but I encourage you to read the entire syllabus. We will be having, because this is an online course, there are readings, there are going to be videos to be viewed, and you really need to keep up. I highly suggest, while you're reading, while you're watching the video lectures or the video segments, is that you take notes. It sounds silly, but you really need to take notes because it reinforces the information that you're hearing, keeps it in your memory, and gives you a better understanding of the materials. And some of the things we're going to be talking about, I think, are going to be rather new to you. So keep up with your blog postings, keep up with the small writing assignments. We'll talk about those in a little bit. And just a quick reminder that it takes a long time to get all the information for class setup, and so it should not be that unusual for you to spend a little bit extra time yourself working on it. The course itself is pretty straightforward. We have a 6-week course. Generally, the 6-week course is divided up into 6 sections, each of which is divided into 2 subsections. We're going to have this week is our introduction. Then we're going to deal with the biological basis of nutrition. Really a very important, probably week 2 is going to be the most difficult, especially in terms of brand new concepts. All of the nutrition and the nutritional sciences developed from biochemistry departments. So to understand the molecular basis of life, and especially the macromolecules of life, is critical to an understanding of nutrition, nutritional requirements, and the underlying physiology that occurs as we try to understand what your body does with these macromolecules and how those macromolecules are used for growth, for development, and just for biological function. And of course, maintenance of health. So we'll talk a lot about that in week 2. I think it's usually the most challenging of the weeks, but if you hang in there, I think you won't have a problem. We will talk quite a bit about nutritional deficiencies and excesses in week 3, then go over vitamins, supplements, and talk a bit about obesity. By the time we get to week 5, we will talk about diets. Diets are just such a huge element of the nutritional world these days, whether you're buying meals through a company for ease of use, for making tasty meals that someone else buys all the ingredients for you, or buying meals specifically for weight loss. As we discuss those different diets, we'll talk about nutritional scams. We'll also talk about hoaxes. Finally, we'll tidy up with the lifespan changes in nutrition. Obviously, as human beings move from the different phases of life, from early growth to aging, nutrition in elderly populations, but also nutritional changes in pregnancy. So we'll get to those in week 6. Pretty straightforward stuff. We will, of course, manage the course through Blackboard, and you can kind of see the general view of Blackboard. The left-handmost column each week is divided up into A and B. You could see the syllabus is located in the introduction section. This video introduction will be there. Also, an introductory blog post. So this is the spot where you'll get to enter who you are, What is it that makes you you? And what is your interest in nutrition? Why do it? And by the way, a fair answer is because it fulfills a requirement for graduation. But most of us like to eat in one way or another, and so I have this little note here. If you could eat one food for the very last time and never have it again, what would it be? That's a little spooky if you think about it. Me, I hate okra, so it wouldn't hurt my feelings never to have that again. You'll also see, we'll talk a little bit, there's a wonderful video about the fundamentals of nutrition from a nursing point of view. So it's a really nice general nutrition video. So that gives us something for the first week. Again, one of those things, I wish we just had time to chat and think about nutrition, but of course we do have to set up some kind of grading scheme. All of the assignments will be 100 points. We will have several 10-point assignments during the first 4 weeks of the class, and then the final 2 weeks, each assignment will be worth 20 points. Notice there's something called the final tracking paper. One of the things that we're going to set up this week is to choose a diet tracking app. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in another video and in another section of Blackboard, one of our other reading assignments. I think the effort of working on Twitter is really an interesting one. You have to get ready to open your mind for new ideas. There is a lot of junk in social media, a lot of pseudoscience, but by the same token, Science Twitter, I hope, will surprise you. If you were looking at the newspaper this morning, or if you were on Twitter last night, the World Health Organization has just issued a recommendation to for people who are dieting to stop using sugar substitutes. It's actually better to use real sugars in limited amounts than it is to use sugar substitutes of any kind. Really fascinating conversation on why that might be so and some of the background. So a lot of things you can find out very quickly on Twitter. What is a healthy diet? Well, we're going to find out together. I am starting this year for the first time. We will have basically a OneNote. OneNote is a note-taking application by Microsoft. We have access to it for free thanks to our Office 365 subscription through the university. I'm not a huge fan of the Microsoft series of products. I prefer open source applications, but everybody, at least at the university, has access to OneNote, so it becomes easy to use. You will be getting an invitation, and there will be a collection of news articles that come out regularly, or come out recently rather, and be able to catch up with some of the reading. And I keep track of these articles year-round, and so this becomes a convenient place for me to store a lot of them and to provide you access at the same time. I should point out that there's a reason for my Crazy Science t-shirts, and it's to remind you that in addition to the biochemistry of nutrition, our nutritional systems, both biochemical and physiological, have been influenced by thousands of years of evolution. Thousands of years of evolution. But the interesting thing about the human condition is it's not just genetic. Weird for a geneticist to say that. It's not just genetic. It's genetic, but it's also cultural. It's also cultural. So we'll have an opportunity to talk quite a bit about the influences of social systems and cultural influences on food choice. you will find next week I'll actually begin presenting some recipes and some ideas for food and food intake and from different cultures. And I would hope that you'll feel comfortable sharing some of yours, because I'm sure some of you have your own background and culture, and probably different from mine, or even the ones that I've adopted that really aren't from my particular background. So really, it could be a lot of fun to share ideas about food and flavors, and as well as how we can make them healthy for our current times. So I'm looking very much to getting to know some of you guys a little personally. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of a background of the course. And I think that's a good go for the first time. Please remember to work on the blog and introduce yourself. It doesn't have to be more than a paragraph, so you don't have to do kind of as much as I've done here, but feel free and also to think about what it is you'd like to learn from the course. I think that's a really important element too, because if we can incorporate some of that, we'll go ahead and do that as well. So, hope you have a great day. Weather looks awesome out there, and see you online.